All right. Hello, willkommen, bienvenue, konnichiwa. It's time for the Arms Inquisition yet again. Episode 307 on Sunday, the 3rd of December, 2023. I'm Phil.
I'm Matt.
And tonight we're very happy to be joined by Alan Denneny. How are you doing, Alan? Can you hear us?
I can indeed. I'm very good, and thanks for having me on.
Absolute pleasure.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Yes.
We were saying before, was it Sam? I think it was Sam in our Element server posted a link. Our Element is like Discord, but we got banned from Discord. So we started an Element server, and Sam posted a link to your appearance on My Third Eye podcast, marathon 3-hour plus stream of you going through all your research, and I was like, whoa, this is right up my alley. I love all this stuff. So I was very, very happy when you agreed to come and talk to us.
No worries. I'm delighted to be on. Apologies you had to go through all that. It is. It's hard, like when you say, oh, do you want to look? Here's a video, might get you up to speed and stuff. And to be honest, as my wife says, Alan, no harm, but the first hour you're very boring. And I could see why most people don't make it to the end, but I think it is the information at the end, it makes it worthwhile. But yeah, no, thanks for having me on. And yeah, Sam Kernelly he put me in touch with you guys, so yeah, I was delighted to see you.
Yeah, you sent me a link to your. You've got a Telegram channel going as well, where there's a lot of people in there sharing links to interesting stuff as well. When did you start that up?
It's been a funny few years. So I started that at some point early-ish or mid 2020. So there was another lady who brought up the subject about back King Edward I and so on, and how this is when everything changed. And I said, I have some interesting information on that you might want to post on your Telegram chat. And she's known for being very blunt and direct, and basically told me, listen, you set up your own channel and do it. And I thought, oh Jesus, I've never done anything like that before. So I set it up, and some great people joined, and it's hopefully some of them managed to listen tonight. And they share information on, it's called Real History. Basically, what do you know? And everyone has some amazing bits of information. And the idea generally was that, we'd all eventually kind of bring a thread together that's more in line with our real history than I think we'll all agree, the bullshit that's put to us these days. So that's running now since 2020, and it's not a massive group, but it's there's some good posts, really good posts.
Quality over quantity, Alan.
It's qualitative, not quantitative. Yes. So.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to sift through it like everything else, like we all do every day, and some is good information, some isn't.
Yes, and some is purposefully not good information. There's this concept of controlled opposition, or I can't remember the other term for it, where certain people might be under the employ of certain 3-letter agencies to infiltrate groups like that, and online forums and whatnot, and purposely put out red herrings or misleading information.
I'm very much in that camp. I believe that a lot of what we see put out there is so extraordinary, and is deliberately between I guess alien potential invasions, false narratives on this, and then the support you get in some angle, some of the main, particularly. So I have kind of a rule of thumb: if you make it too big, it's probably because you're controlled. And I hope, I don't think that it's, they're compromised. Let's put it that way. They might be good people at heart, but I think that you get to a certain level, well, they'll find a way of controlling the knobs, let's say. And the last few months has definitely been high output on the false destructive narratives, and yeah, it's a difficult one. It's a head wreck, really, I'd say, for myself anyway. I'm sure more than me. But we got to keep on sailing.
That's it. Yeah, the only way is up.
Yes.
And sometimes in straight lines as well, Alan. This is the name of your talk on My Third Eye was Lines of Destiny, which I kind of borrowed, and because that's sort of like the name that was given to you, sort of overall, what would you say, hypothesis, working model, or whatever you would call it. Yeah, thesis. Yeah. So can we get into it? Can we? Go into some detail and for people who haven't seen your previous appearance, maybe try and catch them up. I know it's a big ask trying to cram 3+ hours into a lot less time, but if you could sort of give us, the bare bones.
Sure. So I don't know. Hopefully, I can try and share a screen, or I can talk through it. I'll probably talk because it might be a bit laggy, but I will share as I see. So basically, it started. He's now 14. He was 10 at the time, and he was arguing with his younger brother over Xbox, whatever. So I was just messing on the computer because I wasn't allowed anywhere else, and I showed him Newgrange, and that would be probably a good share, just so that people know what I am talking about.
Yeah.
So, when you can see that.
Yeah, we got it.
So Newgrange is it's quite an old. No worries. It's in County Meath, so it's just about like half an hour drive northeast of Dublin. And it's a passage tomb, and it's dated to have been completed construction around like 3,200 BC, 3,300. If you go by conventional dating systems,
sure.
There may have been a much earlier tomb or monument in the place, but and it was quite a key place. So basically, I brought him to show him what's so special about it. It's just a pile of rocks. At 10, he's not going to give me too much of an intellectual debate on it. Like, yeah, Dad, I'm bored. So I says, well, look, on the shortest day, however they did it, and I don't know, they were able to line the entrance up. So if you look, you can see a doorway, and above it you have what's called a light box, which is it was reconstructed quite heavily in the 60s. But on the shortest day, there's about 3 days where the sun doesn't really move at all. And on the middle day, the 21st of December, the winter solstice, the light shines in through the passage and lights up the middle. So basically, he asked me, what does that mean? How do you know it does that, Dad? And that question kind of got me, well, how do I know it does that? So I found an app, basically put it on Newgrange, set it for the 21st of December, and I guess what happened after that is why I'm here talking to you now, because as I zoomed out, I guess what I can do is there is Newgrange.
Yep.
So hopefully this doesn't collapse.
Ooh. Audio's a bit choppy. Audio's a bit choppy when you zoom in and stuff.
So it should come clear.
Yeah.
So what you see there is that line of sunrise on the winter solstice. So I tracked it, and when I tracked it, I found that it did some strange things. So I found that the first thing was, don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
So I found that it lined right through what I thought was Stonehenge. So when I went to double check, it did. And of course, like, if you haven't heard this before, that it's quite a shock. So, and you can see the app I use there in the top left. But really, of course, I'm an engineer. I work in civil engineering. And when you see things like this, you know, generally speaking, it's not a coincidence, you know? You know that there's maybe a method, and of course, so when I seen that it lined with Stonehenge, I pulled it back further and seen that it went on straight through Paris, uh, then through Giza,
No way.
and and even on to Kaaba.
Oh, what's
And
Kaaba?
Kaaba is the cube in
Oh, the
Mecca.
black cube in the Mecca that they dance round and no one's allowed in.
Correct.
Got you.
Exactly. And if you only, I think you're obliged to visit. You know, if in the Muslim faith, you're obliged to visit once a year. So when you looked at it all chronologically, you seen that. I don't know if that's come up. So you can see the age. You know, again, if you believe the dates you're told,
Yeah.
and you know, a certain degree, I suppose you have to assume is correct, and you know, the rest we know is well his story. So Newgrange, you can see 3,500, 300, right through to Stonehenge, you know, at about 3,100 BC to 2,000. There's been a few incarnations of that.
Mm.
Then you have the pyramids at 2,600, they say, but we all know that the Sphinx is, well, my date would be that at least 33 to 66,000 years, and maybe 99,000 years old. When, you know,
Is that
definitely multiples.
sorry, Alan, is that derived from processional numbers?
Yes.
So like the age, are you going back to the age of Leo when the Sphinx was carved?
Exactly that. I don't have a slide here, but I have checked all these out with astronomical apps and so on, and I found that the Sphinx lines with the winter solstice. It does it a few times with Leo rising, so I obviously connected would be Leo, and you know the procession is it's 25,000 500 or 700 years, 800 years. So when you go through, I found that that happened at 33,000 BC, I think, or maybe 30,000 off the head.
Yeah.
And then you go through the multiples of it. So it's at least minimum that, you know, if it's one iteration, if it's more than that, you know yourself. So, and then the Kaaba, well, we know the Kaaba wasn't always there as well. That was moved, obviously, with Muhammad from 600 AD, but originally the cube, and there's still evidence of it there, is at Petra. So it had moved down. So something deliberate was placed. You know, it wasn't, I guess, an accident that this line. And I guess my journey was establishing well how could they do that? How could they know? How could they actually physically set it out on the ground? As an engineer, that's the way I'd look at it. How could it? What did they use to do it? So I realized that they needed certain tools, and the first thing was you needed. I found that they didn't. Sorry if that one comes true. So this is where you cross the Irish Sea, approaching in the distance towards Stonehenge. And I looked for what the obvious thing was, a bonfire, and I realized, well, that's, you know, because my tradition was that you'd light bonfires, the same in England and Scotland, all over these islands. Remember, this is a time when there was no nations as we know them. They were the same people, but you know, they had the same religious beliefs, same culture, same practices, and bonfires was one of them. But we never quite understood. We were told, go and light a bonfire. Certain places is good. We were told, you know, it was great. We get some treats, go up, be an arsonist for the night, and set things on fire. It's perfect if you're a young boy, you know. And the idea was to make absolutely sure your fire was bigger than your neighbors or friends across the way, because you couldn't have him having a big fire than you. So that was kind of the tradition, without any knowledge as to what the hell it was about. So first job was to see, was that on the line? any of those fires, and I couldn't find one. And obviously my heart sunk. I thought I was onto a winner instantly, until I looked and I seen a cairn just to the north of the line, on a Ibeg in on the Welsh Peninsula.
Right.
And I thought, hang on a minute. And I'd remembered an old Gaelic saying was Tom Midger Gathina, which is a funny way of saying basically I'm between two fires. I'm trying to make me mind up or find me way. So I looked the same distance the other side of the line, and sure enough, I seen remnants of a cairn the other side. And I thought, well, this is it. They didn't use one fire. They probably used two. But to use two, they'd need to be able to bisect it. And this is the other thing we used to do at school, was to make this St. Bridget's cross. So the idea is you get reeds or rushes, you cut them the same length, and you fold them in half, and you kind of lap them around, and it gives you this kind of twirl, which you see in the middle. But the thing is, because they're the same length and they're folded in the middle, you know that one arm is the same length as the other. And what you can do is you can ensure you have a fire one side, and you could have a fire the other side at the same distance. That way, the middle point would be your line, or the sun, or astral body, whatever you're trying to range in.
Right.
So that was the second puzzle. And you've seen that lots of it throughout history where that developed. And you can see the bottom left on that photo. That was found 4,000. That's 2,500 BC at Stonehenge,
Wow.
and it's clearly a solar disk. You can see our modern version iterations on the other side, but at the top middle you have a lunar, a small solar disk and a lunar disk. So they were all kind of tied together at that point. And then, of course, when you see the feathery aspect of the reeds, and of course that to me give wings. And of course the one you think of is the ankh, and that's where you see so lean on kusan, lean or line, depending on how you pronounce it, is to follow. On isn't there, and kusan is your feet or path. So to follow the path. So it just kind of hit me with ankh, and ankh or ankh is just a shortened version, the path.
Right.
And that's why you see the wings on these crosses. And of course, the ankh, the center is the sun. I assume with monotheism it came along. So I looked at that further. And obviously the other puzzle was, how would you signal the fire? How would you get people to move at a distance? Remember the Stone Age, the Neolithic period? So bone wouldn't be long enough. Yes, it doesn't burn, but you're not going to wave it at a distance that people could know which way to go. So then there was the Shillelagh, a village in Wicklow, just on the Wicklow-Wexford border, and they found this stick. Now, we all know it. It's usually shortened, and you think of Irish people beating each other over the head with it in the distant past. And there was indeed lots of records of that. Also for using it for sport, maybe hurley came off it. But the interesting thing is that this was, they believe they put it inside, a roasted pig on a spit. And off the face of it, that sounds pretty crazy. But actually, what it did was you carbonized the surface. So if you carbonized, and the knot of the head of it, you see where the main trunk is cut, that's quite congested and tight with knots. So it's quite solid and dense there. And if it's carbonized, what you have is quite an effective. It mightn't last long, but it lasts long enough where you could burn a torch. Certainly one night, maybe many, and you could make it as long as you wanted, depending on the branch. But now you could light something at a distance, and it could be seen far away. And there, of course, you see the was in the Egyptian gods. What other purpose would that be? Maybe something else. But again, this is all about coincidences. You see also their crosses are very hard to distinguish between the say, Bridget's cross and certain symbols you see today, like NATO, Google, so on. And again, as you say, the 666 on Google Chrome, not, yes, we interpret it as bad now, but actually it's quite simple navigation tool. Another thing, Bridget probably should have been the patron saint of Ireland, but she could have been other than George of England as well, because it's very likely, from my own research, that so the northern tribe was the Brigantes,
Yep.
which you could say that Britain comes from, and that literally was from the North Sea across the Pennines to the Irish Sea, and so why they were called the Brigantes? Well, it was after Bridget, and the word bridge almost definitely comes from Bridget. And what does she represent? Well, she was either Cygnus at the end of the Milky Way or the Milky Way itself. And the Milky Way is the perfect bridge, isn't it? From one ocean horizon to another. So it's very likely that the Britain is named after Bridget itself. And you can find the name through lots of research. You can see that you'd find it over in parts of India. It's Eastern Europe. So again,
the symbol of the Isle of Man is reminiscent of that.
A trestle.
Yeah,
that's correct. It's it's basically the 3-arm. So the difference between the 3-arm and the 4-arm is basically, so the northern, there's a line, and I guess it's that line, the sunrise line. So the northern side of it, the northeast side of it, tends to be associated with a trestle, a 3-arm cross. And south of it is a 4-arm cross, which is a divide, maybe one of the first major divides. So that is the difference. So the Isle of Man is to the north of that line. So we know the Manx with the arms, and So
cool.
Let's see where. So I guess another thing that I noticed was Tara, and I guess the hill of Tara was how did that end up in the story? Well, it ended up in the story because I had traced my line. Now this will probably become
yeah, it goes. The audio goes a bit glitchy when you swap to
so I'm
Google
zooming
Earth.
out. You probably don't get it.
But once you stop moving the sort of Google Earth, it seems to settle down. Oh, there we go. That's the big picture.
Yes. So it's just let it. It is. So there's quite a few lines. I don't know how clear that is to you, but so you have the blue line is the sunrise line.
Right.
So that line is from Newgrange through Stonehenge through Paris. Ironically, the pyramid and the Louvre, if you place it to go through that point, it will go straight through the 0 point in front of the Notre Dame.
Wow.
And in fact, one thing I'll show you, when the line leaves from Stonehenge and crosses the English Channel, I will show you a point if I can. So just at Gosport, if you know Gosport down the south coast in England.
Yeah.
This point, sorry, here you go. They built a Millennium Spike right on that line.
Interesting.
So you can see it down the middle.
Why would they build it there? Just to,
I'm sure it's coincidence.
just to clarify, Alan, this this line, this first blue line, was that the summer solstice when that beam appears?
No. So that blue line is the winter solstice.
Winter
so
solstice.
It's what
right.
some would call correct, the winter solstice.
Right.
So that's from Newgrange through England, through Paris, through Vinci, which is found down to to Kaaba down to Egypt.
Yeah.
And then someone at the same time as I found this, I became aware of the Michael line from Mount Carmel, which had 7 known churches on it. Okay? So there is a difference in the 2 lines. So the orange line is sunset line, as far as I know, and it's definitely so. The southern point to where they meet in the middle is, I think, is sunset on May Day. But sorry, sunset on the summer solstice, and then when you pass Vinci, so it's coincidental that.
Just say that again, Alan. You broke up then. I think might be having internet issues.
Hopefully.
Oh, you're back, I think. All right, so we're zoomed into. This is where the 2 lines meet. Oh, there's 3 lines there, but this is in Italy where they meet. Vinci is the place, I believe, isn't it?
You zoomed. Correct. So that is where they meet. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yeah. Once Google Earth is stable, it's the audio seems to recover, but it's when you're zooming in and out, it seems to just cut out a bit. So,
but I think it takes up a lot of bandwidth, probably.
Maybe, yeah. Now, just can you explain what the Michael line is? Because I think you were chopping up when you were talking about that. The orange line, is it the Michael line?
Correct. So the Michael line is the line. Let me see if I can do it where it's not so disruptive. Bear with me. Sorry, now it's
all right.
So the Michael line basically is a sunset line from Mount Carmel in Israel, northern Israel, on the peninsula. So there's a famous monastery there that was originally where they reckon that founded by the Knights Templar.
Oh, cool! Is that where Carmelite nuns come from then?
Correct.
Right.
Yes. Well, Carmichael is of Michael.
So it will be on the
so
Michael
that's
line,
its
then.
derivative. Right. So I'm just trying to find. I should have had that line handy for you. Bear with me. So what I just go over, I'll zoom back out and show you the map. So apologies. It will.
All right.
It will. I'll stop sharing a second and share when it's stabilized. Okay.
Okay.
So the Michael line is a sunset line from May Day to. Okay. Okay. So I'll share it again. So hopefully it doesn't cut out this time.
There we go. Got the big map up again.
Okay, so you see the orange line is a Michael line. So there were 7 notable churches on that. So the difference being the blue line is the earlier, or at least as I calculate, the older line to Egypt or to the Middle East.
Yeah.
The other line comes later. The key difference is, remember, the 2 fires was how it was cited, the blue line. But what I noticed was that the Michael had single tower churches or cathedrals. And it was at this point I realized, hang on, this is when I realized it wasn't just me that knew. It was known at a higher level, let's say. And I guess when it crossed at Vinci, obviously that was one key clue to learn. The other thing was I found 7 other churches on that line as well as the known 7. And why is it of interest to us? I guess the key events was, well, Vinci, where they cross, and Leonardo. Again, if I looked at the translation, Leonardo, if you take it from Old Gaelic, which would have been, and I'd say Gaelic, not Celtic, Gaelic would have been the language on these islands, or something, a Proto-Gaelic type. And it basically means that the high line. Leonard, Ard means high, and Leon, we know, is follow or line, and where the lion comes from was the animal they found at the end of it. So that's what I theorize is Leonardo literally means the high line. And it follows its way back, and coincidentally, it goes through. You can see all the Michael references, but it goes through Mount Michael. And at that year, was that 21? Yeah, it was at 21, wasn't it? The G8 or 7 met in Mount Michael, which is, you can see the second last church.
Oh, is that in Cornwall?
Yes. So if you see the second point, I don't know if you can see my cursor.
Yes, yeah, we can see it there, yeah. Yeah, it's right on the peninsula.
So there is Mount Michael. They lit a bonfire, didn't they, when they were there? And that was in July.
They had a barbecue, didn't they, without a mask? Yeah.
They had a fake meat, Bill Gates fake meat barbecue.
I seriously doubt it was fake, and I seriously doubt it was full time.
Oh my gosh.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Yeah, who knows? But we can guess. And then the last point is Skellig Michael. So we all know this from Star Wars. It is where Lucas's island, the beehive and the funny kind of Furby.
Yeah, Luke's milking that big beast for green breast milk.
Grumpy Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, we will not go into that one.
Before he tries so hard he dies.
Yes, exactly. Cool. So it ended up there. So that was on the line. The other thing was then, I initially found a grid, which you find on the back of the Newgrange as well, a grid shape, which has two distinct lines, or 3 really. But I found 3 lines in the initial grid that I found. And let me see, rather than messing up the screen, can I find it? And there. So here's the grid I found originally. So what I found was that the 2 fires, if I didn't find a location of a cairn, I found like a modern church, for example, with its spire, or I also found round towers. But we were told round towers were built in 700 AD to keep the Vikings out, because the Vikings were rubbish at siege. So there was a door halfway up, and they brought their treasures up, and that's where they hid out. But so I chased all these towers. I downloaded, locations, coordinates for them, where they were, and other churches and so on. And I started to see this grid without really knowing what the hell I was doing. I just recorded them all, and this is kind of the grid I found. But when I remember then at the back, which I'd seen myself, I've seen this grid, and see that line in the middle?
Yeah.
That's exactly the opposite side, pretty much the opposite side to the door.
Right.
So it like pretty much is the line, and that grid is actually showing you what I'd call today in construction or civil engineering, it's an as-built drawing. It's showing you how they did it. They literally are showing you a method, and you can see to the right-hand side, I now think you have 3 dots and then 3 other dots. and then you have kind of a squeezed bubble in the middle, and that literally is representing this. I think anyway, is the sunrise itself, maybe over the water, and those are pairing fires. So you have 6 bonfires, 3 opposing 3, to give you a line. That's what that's my theory. Again, we'll never be able to prove it one way or another, but again, it is a coincidence that's exactly on the opposite end with a line showing you a grid that I found. So
do you think
again,
as well as using like the watchtowers, like the 2 towers, and the line runs through the middle, could they not have been maybe using other methods to pick up the lines, like dowsing or something like that?
So that's a good question, and it's come up. And yes, dowsing. My granddad just dowsed, and I remember it showed me. My dad, we used to make coat hanger, an L shape in each, and I just used to be blown away because it worked every time. And it wasn't just water I could find. We could find an electric cable. We could find anything you think of. Basically, it'd pick it up. So a ley line. And this is where I'm confused. So maybe one of your listeners or yourselves or someone else know. There's 2 types of lines. So the lines I found, I wouldn't say they're classical ley lines. They're light lines. They're very much linear lines, or linear in the sense of short range, and then of course, well, they're light and straight. And what we find is it curves, obviously, with the moving sun, and as you then move through the latitudes. But a ley line, it may be on a fault. It may be procession, walking, stuff like that on a path. You know, when rock is formed, it solidifies. You have different magnetic field. You have different elements. So one is of the ground, the ley line, I would say, and I don't know what to call. I would say these are light lines, really.
Right.
At Newgrange, a solar line, or well, they're not just solar; they're constellations, they're stars and planets. And so I would say a light, luminous line,
Right. That makes
whereas
sense. Yeah.
ley lines is underground. So no, it's one that, yeah, the ley line to me is very much in the ground, and I don't know what you would call these bar line or light line. So
Okay.
it is interesting.
Cool.
So how that all comes about was, I found that the lines eventually, the Michael line ended up in going back. One of the lines was at 51 degrees, 27 minutes, I think. But of course it varied. But that line where I was finding Virgo, the moon rising, and Virgo, particularly Virgo, to the northeast of Newgrange. And I found that line, when I looked at it, passed through, there's a constructed pyramid from the 1820, something like that. A guy, a captain who had went to Egypt, came back to, I think it's in Kilkenny, and it is on the line. There was a couple of exact cairns, single on the line, right back to the hill of Tara. And as you can see here, this is it represents infinity, and I think that was the biggest shock to me, to realize it was in infinity, the shape. And now when I saw it, I never stopped seeing it everywhere, as I'm sure you probably got a shock when you seen that part yourself, and now you see infinity on so many things. But here is that line, and you see a purple one in the middle, and you're probably asking what that is, and that's what I call the caduceus line, or the basically for every medical symbol you see, and it's a power line. So that's why I've colored it purple. But all the pictures are key if you look at it now. So as I said, in this case, it's the reddish line is the Michael line. You had a single tower, and you had the blue line, the sunrise line, which is 2 towers, And of course, when 2 became 1, which funny enough was a Templar saying, I believe, as well. And 2 becomes 1. And also I noticed if you look down on the bottom right there, you see the little bit of text. The Michael line goes through the coordinates 33 degrees north, 33 degrees east.
Never.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
So there it is there, if you see it.
And is that in the ocean?
That is in the ocean, yeah. I don't know if anything is there.
Yeah, it might be a good place to have a dive.
Or maybe not.
Find some Templar treasure.
It could be, isn't it? Interesting. So I think 33, we've seen the number 33 everywhere, haven't we?
Yeah, it's everywhere.
In the early doors, we've seen it everywhere. And I think what it means is there's the Templar, the Mount Carmelite monastery. And then you have the 33, and I think that was a vector. It was like there's your coordinates, there's your vector, there's the line.
Right.
So maybe it means a course of action, the direction we're going in. So when you're seeing the 33, they're signaling each other, this is the way we're going. So follow, get in line.
Are any of the churches in France on the Markle line, are any of them sort of Madonna, virginal? There's a lot of Templar places that were named after Magdalene and such.
There is, I see a lot called Agnes. So some with Agnes, which is, if you know, historically, I think it's a pagan derivative as well, as All Saints are. They're basically being hybridized into the modern Catholicism, I think, at the time, which Catholic literally means unify, one. So it's probably the first one church, wasn't it? One world church.
Yeah.
But I do know that it goes through Mount Saint Michel, which you see here. That's Mount Michael, but Mount Saint Michel is an island, a real, dominant French bastion that was, synonymous with that through the ages. And then you make your way back, as I said, Mount Michael, Skellig Michael, and then up to Tara. So Tara stuck out as well, because when you looked at Tara, it became pretty clear it was the shape was an infinity, as you can see here.
And which line is that on, Tara? Sorry.
So that is on the line that goes, bear with me, to the what I'll do is I'll stop sharing and I'll move Google Maps, so I'll bring you up to speed.
The other thing about those lines is how much of them go through the continental shelf as well, rather than the ocean.
Yeah, on landmass. Strange. This is all very strange.
Well, I suppose, it just means, like we know about sea levels rising and stuff, what might be underneath.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the point, like the 33-degree point, if I guess, what did they reckon? Sea level rose about 400 feet, something like that. You wonder if there's anything down there,
That's what I mean,
that may have been exposed when the lines were first discovered, kind of thing.
Well, they're actually, I'll move the map, so apologies.
It's all right. It's no bother.
Of it, because that is a very good point. The sea levels did rose by about. Can you see that? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, Sam, there's a link in the show notes to Alan's Telegram. If you look down below, it should be there. Sorry, Alan. Continue.
No worries. So there is. You asked the first question was, what is that line? So remember the original grid I showed you, which was the backstone of Newgrange, which I have, of course, lost. So there you go. So that grid, or this one, okay, you can see the angle. See the one that's moving to the northeast, southwest, northeast. Those lines.
Right. Yeah.
And I had already worked out that was 51.5 0.27, I think it was, degrees. It's a while now since I've done it.
Yeah.
And when I looked at this line, it's the same angle exactly.
Ah, right.
And just about here, it goes through a pyramid that was constructed. So this we call it a Virgo line. Okay.
Right, and that's the one
That is
connecting
the alignment of
Newgrange
it,
to
which
St.
then
Michael's Church, whatever it was on. Yeah, I've got you now.
correct. So the turn is here. So we heard of the myths of Scota, so
Yeah.
there's so much variance in that story. It's pretty difficult to know either way what happened. But there is an old megalith, which is probably just that, and it's called Scota's Grave, and it's just north of that line.
Some people think she was an
What I
asylum
will
seeker,
say is that
an Egyptian asylum seeker.
Ooh,
Scota, yeah.
yes, an exile.
Yeah.
Correct, and that may not be untrue. And there's a lot of evidence, again, the timings. There's so much variance in when and who she was.
Yeah.
Some say a daughter of Akhenaten, and some much later. No one knows for sure. But what is for sure is that this line makes its way to Tara, as I say, and in the Mound of the Hostages, which is just is right beside Tara. You had, if I can find it again, you might see it in this photo. So here you go, if it comes, and you can see my cursor.
Yeah.
So this is the Mound of the Hostages. And it's very interesting. The word hostage I found, which I can't find now, I found 2 years ago, but from early etymology, a hostage was someone who was trapped in a ship. They were held in a ship, but it's like almost Phoenician times before. It's like they weren't held captive, they were just trapped. So in here, they found a boy who was wearing a necklace, and the necklace, which actually my brother seen a few weeks ago, it was quite curious case when he went into the Irish Museum. They had it there. It's the same kind of design, build and same design and same kind of stones. Some are from Portugal, some Finance beads that were identical almost to Tutankhamun's at the time, and that was found at about they dated back to like 2700 BC. So that is in that mound there. And there's some great research on finds. So up here, this was the great hallway, where the banquets and hiking. So and these are the mounds, and they're distinctly different mounds, aren't they? So first you see the infinity around it, and see this fattening, put it at the top. But actually, if you look at that, it's like a snake's head. So is it the original one of the original Ouroboros?
Yeah.
Because it's yes.
It's like eating its own tail there underneath.
If you can see it, yeah, it's quite unusual when you look at it, and it's not an accident. They didn't just they went to all this effort and left a mess up here. Don't think so. So clean that up there, young fella.
Yeah.
No, they left it. So that's the first thing. The other thing I noticed was this stone is so we know the Stone of Destiny, and there's two. There's one we know that Charlie sat on earlier in the year, a small version, and then the other Stone of Destiny, Leah Fall, both of them Leah Fall. Scone, Leah Scone, Scone is where it was found in Scotland, which they say came from here. This is where the High Kings were coronated. But the thing about this stone is it's not on the center of this, say, this mound type ring. It's on the sunset side of it. Exactly, in fact. It's on the sunset, summer solstice, which is the opposite. So I guess rebellion about 1400. There's a couple of generations of the Huktep. When Akhenaten, or renamed himself, was the third. He he was an ominist, which I found when he looked at old. If I wrote down, so 1 in Gaelic is a 1, but if I wrote it down and you read it, you'd say Amen, Amen, or Amun,
Right.
which means 1. And so this is before that point. They believed they were polytheists, so all the stars, all the constellations, all the planets had a place in the heavens. And Akhenaten's family decided, well, actually the sun, let's just say it, the sun is the most important, which I guess in reality is true. It's the one that gives light. And that was their religion, the Omonists, or the Atenists, which is the sun, basically. So if you look at this, stone it just seems odd. Why would you have a pairing? So this here is where, ironically, on the coronation day, or the beginning of spring, which is St. Bridget's Day, funny enough, back to herself again, the sun rises to the southeast. And if the stone was here, it would cast a straight line onto this here, which I would say is the moon. So if this is the sun, and the sun is a young fella with a penis, it should be here. And if you look carefully, you can see almost a divot in the middle. Now, the interesting thing is the Vikings were supposed to have dug it out. So this would have been much higher. And I went and looked at this. So I reckon to shadow onto this, it needs to be 3 meters high. And there's about 1.2 meters, 0.4. So most of it's underground. So they dug out this stone. So this probably might have been 1 meter, 2 meters higher, and they threw it to the sides, digging out this stone, and they threw it in here. The Vikings, allegedly. Why would the Vikings do that? I guess that's my later work will tell you something. But so I reckon the kneeling stone, I call it, or the heart stone, is exactly what I would call it from my new research, which is the coronation stone in Westminster Abbey, will be here. And this stone, Leofal, will be down here. Here, a silver sword, which is, we know, coronations involved. I have a photo to show, I think. So this is kind of an illustration I've done just to make it make more sense.
Oh.
So this stone would have sat in the sun circle. You had a shadow cast into the moon circle, and you can see the sun goes that way, so the shadow will go that way, and that's how they unite, is the silver shadow. Moves from one shoulder to the other.
Yeah.
And the other interesting thing is that's no one alive in that photo, sadly, but
It's Major Tom, that, isn't it?
but
Said Major Tom.
yeah, it was. With him, I feel kind of he was honourable, at least, and you know we said no more. But the other one, other note is that you have the Sol and Moon. So there's the other Gaelic words you need to. So you have the Moon, Mon, and you have the Sun is Sol. So there's Mon, the high one. See this the snake's head here? What?
Yeah.
So this is the moundy one here. So that's the moon, and this is the Sol. So really, what you have is and Chimple or Temple is to go around in Gaelic.
Oh no.
So this is Sol, Mon.
Solomon.
Mon.
Solomon. King Solomon.
Temple. Yeah, Solomon's Temple. Well, so this is Cormac. It's crazy, isn't it?
It's mental.
So this is called Cormac, and well, Cormac, King Cormac, he was supposed to be one of the wisest high kings there ever was. So remember, he was one of the latter kings, and a decision he made was there was a wealthy landlord, or he was. And then there was a peasant who he accused of stealing sheep, but he seen that the guy was couldn't afford it. But either way, Cormac suggested, "Will I have the sheep?"
Oh,
To the. So where does that story sound familiar
yeah,
to?
it's the same as the King Solomon story of the two mothers and the babies. The two
Correct.
mothers, and there's a child, and one woman saying it's my son, it's my son. The other woman saying it's my son, it's my son. And Solomon says, "Oh,
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I'll cut the child in half, and you can have half each." And the true
Yes.
mother says, "No, no, 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 don't do it." It's the exact same
Yes.
story.
And that was the. It is, yeah. So you begin to wonder, don't you?
Yeah.
And the thing was, that was the old Brehon law, which was one of the oldest law systems that they had on these islands. Was how they negotiated things, and wealth and hierarchy meant nothing. Law was equal to everyone,
That
and that was how it was exacted.
that image on the left, Alan, is that a tarot card?
It is. So this is the other thing I can tell you is that I'll jump to that. So this is latter stuff. I hadn't planned to tell that one, but I will. So let's have a look at that with me now with your new knowledge, okay? So the tarot. So look at the suits. You have the pentacles. You have the swords. We know what the sword is now. And the spear. You have the hearts. We know the heartstone. And you look at all the wands, the hazel and the yew tree and all you have around the thing. So look at the cup, is the chalice. Well, isn't the Holy Grail is the blood, the lines, isn't it?
Yeah.
You have the pentacles. The pentacles has a profound meaning, which is part of my new stuff. I will go into it later, but rest assured, the pentacle is more significant than we would believe. Um, and there's the sword of light and the shadow, the silver sword.
Yeah.
Cast. Look at the fool. Why is he the fool? We are the fools. We were all the fools. Why? What's he doing there? He's standing, looking happy, moving around with his knapsack. But what's he actually doing? He has his back to the sun. He's the fool because he has no idea of the line control.
Right.
He's the fool because he's turned his back to the light.
He's an NPC.
Basically. Correct. That's it. And we all were.
Yeah.
We all were, I guess, before this. So you look at, for example, Saul. So, Boaz and Jacinth. So I can tell this. What do they mean? So there's the high priestess. And we know that what does a fire produce? A good fire.
Light, heat, smoke.
Yeah, what kind of a smoke if it's really good?
Oh, stuff that gets you high.
It produces a column of smoke, doesn't it?
Oh, right, of course, yeah. So that's is that what your two pillars, Jachin and Boaz, represent? Columns of smoke in this instance.
Correct. You have the John. So you have two. Yes, exactly. So they represent the smoke columns. And you always have the fire on top, and the fire.
Very significant to the old Freemasons as well. Those two pillars.
Correct. Exactly. And you see the two towers there in the Hierophant. Similar thing.
Right. Got you.
Crown in the middle. So anything else there? If you look, all of them refer to it. Again, the Emperor has the Aries, on base with the. I think there's another better one down here. Let's see. Fortune. So remember, I said the wings represent the cross, the Bridget's cross at the start.
Yeah.
When you have the wings, different types of wings, and you have a lion, don't you? The lean, they follow the lines.
Right.
So, and then you have the Ouroboros world. So basically, the tarot card represents the tours. There's the sword, aces and swords. The tarot cards represent. There's Capricorn. Again, you can see the 5-star, which is significant. Seth, well, that's Sophie, isn't it? And you have the grid. Look at the globe with the lines on it. So again, look at you have them all really here. So you have
that's
the
Prince.
Empress.
That's
so
Prince,
you have the
isn't it?
crescent moon.
Looks like him.
Looks like Prince's symbol
Yeah,
there on
it
the
is
Empress
actually, isn't
card.
it, with the symbol. Yeah, that's probably not a coincidence. But see, there is the Seal of Solomon.
Yeah.
The Star of David, but the Seal of Solomon was the original, which is the sun, to see the male phallus, and the womb of the female overlocked, and that's the creation symbol, really. That's what the Seal of Solomon means. It's the point of creation.
In a lot of Freemasonic iconography, the columns, the Boaz and Jachin columns have one as the down arrow and one as the up arrow also.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it's I'm just seeing that. So it is interesting that, and I guess one thing which is later on, but I'll see, can I pull it up? And then I'll show you something you will find interesting, which I think is a good at the end. But so you remember the order of the Golden Dawn, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn.
Yes. Yeah.
So I had a look at that, and knowing what I know now, if it is ever to be found again. Apologies, I have a lot of slides. I have over 500 on my new and 300 or 400 on the first. It's like 900 slides.
God grief.
Yeah, every one of them has a couple of stories to tell.
Yeah. We've spoken to an ex-member of the Golden Dawn.
Have we?
Yeah, a couple of years ago. Yeah, we had
Interesting. So we had a couple of interesting members of the Golden Dawn. One of them was Bram Stoker.
Oh, right.
He was a member, and he was head of the Hist Society in Trinity in Dublin, which I went to many years ago. But so he was in the Hist. He was president of the Hist Society, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, he produced Dracula. And Dracula, Vlad the Impaler, which most people tend to believe he was, we know too that he's an ancestor of Charlie.
Yeah.
So it's actually interesting. The last recorded king on Tara was Brian Boru, officially. Okay, and Brian Boru is the direct ancestor of all the royal houses in Ireland, in Europe.
Wow. And when was he around?
Yeah. So he defeated the Vikings, it said.
Right.
Around 1100.
Right. Okay.
So actually, that might be what going to first. I'll come back to this one. I found it. I'll just leave it for a sec. Or I'll show you it, and then I'll go to him. Bear with me. So, interesting. I worked out the moon. This is on the winter solstice. I worked out that last year, winter, I don't know if you're familiar with the symbol for that. So this is the Rosicrucian symbol, or the Hermetic Order, the Golden Dawn precursor. But have a good look at it. you have crescent moon on the sol, so Luna, the sol, then Elementa, the crucifix, and then Ignis is where, remember, like Tara, the male and female, the point of creation or the ignition, the conception, basically. Yeah. So last year was highly unusual. And I realized, hang on a minute. So this is at New Grange. The moon has a cycle of 18.7 years approx. That's why the moon is associated with monkey or Lug or Loki, associated with the moon. Basically, a monkey is unpredictable, does unpredictable things, and the moon, it comes from the moon being, it has not really a nightmare cycle because it doesn't follow any of the rules primarily, but it does have a specific 28-day 13 times a year cycle, but the full in location that happens every 18.7 years. Right. But to happen just before dawn, I worked out somewhere it was at least 450 year cycle. And last December, I've seen that it was one of those times. So it was a 1 in a 500 year event. And of course, I went straight with my oldest son to Stonehenge to have a look-see. So what happens is the moon rises first, a crescent moon, because the sun is below. So this happened about 7 o'clock, and nearly 2 hours later, the sun comes up after, and there's the moon. Wow. You have the crescent moon, okay? Then the sun, and then you have New Grange's cruciform inside, where you have the bowl at the back, and this is where I believe the seeds, the seeds for next year, the growing seeds would be.
So just to explain for people who are only listening, we were looking at from Stonehenge there, east for where the sunrise would be, but the moon rose where the sun should be before the sun rose, if that makes sense.
Yes.
That's pretty wild. And that happens every 400 or 500 years or something.
I can't remember off the head, roughly. But I think it's like 470 years.
It's 432 years, surely.
Not this year. It did happen last year. It happened at that. And I went, if I can, so there's the Rosicrucian symbol.
Yeah.
It's all of the above. You have the crescent moon, or the sun, into the cruciform, and then you have Ignis. So, and dawn, of course, at dawn. So not sunset. So that's interesting itself. But I took a photo, if I can find it somewhere. I did.
They must have had an absolute whale of a time last winter solstice when that was happening. I wonder what they were getting up to.
Well, this is the part that really pissed me off. Was when I went to go there, it was the security was unreal. So I'm looking for a photo if I can find it. I took a photo and damn it, I don't want to blow the last thing I'm going to finish with, but you'll see it at the end because now I'll give you something to enjoy.
Thanks.
So I can't. Sorry, now let me find. I would just clarify that Brian Baru, if I can't.
Is this like my Black & Decker workhorse here?
The multi-purpose tabletop.
yeah.
Available in the middle aisle of Lidl.
Tabletop. Okay, and that's a good segue. So I'll go exactly to that. So what my new stuff is about is basically looking at the lines. I looked at language, didn't I? And I realized that I looked at the old tree language, which would have been Om. So if you read a history book, go to your main local library or university, and they'll say, Om appeared about 100 BC on a rock. But Om is a tree language. So where's the tree? So the trees were all over these islands long before that, and they were carving away their lines, their language. So Om is so you have to break down the language. And Om, this is Mansai. So Om is
Oh, is it like the knot?
so a similar language is this is the people of Russia. Yeah, this is up in the Eurasian, up up in the western steppe, up in the mountains, up in the Urals. You have a tribe, the Mansi, who are really targeted by the officials. And to me, it looks like there was a murder of students, and the Mansi people were blamed for it. And it was quite a famous Russian case back in the 40s or 50s. But they were just the abuse. They were told they murdered them and whatever. But you see, the language here is quite clear. The carving is very similar. And if you look in Peru, you have the quipu knots. Ironically, I think a South African guy, which I've been trying to track him down, but he had worked out that actually it was a similar language to Ogham. It was almost identical. The knots fold a different way to match the Ogham bends. So I looked at Ogham because I've seen the lines in certain things, and there's Ogham. So you have the tree language, and every tree has a different character. And this is like the stones you see. So see the edge here. So the language works from the edge, and it goes each way, up or down, or horizontal, on sometimes one side, sometimes both.
Gosh.
Now it's really complex. So there's a computer guy. I have a video somewhere. He read OM is the most difficult because it didn't have a space or direction. So there was no way really of interpreting to code it in binary.
Wow.
So they made a point and they flattened it to make it understandable, so they could computer code it. It was the only language to do that. But when you looked at it, so for me, like you're looking at this, so what's this to do with anything? I looked at the tree types and I realized that those trees that had value in a particular season were correlated with the lines. Either the boat lines meant it was perennial or it was evergreen, basically. On one side, for example, a hawthorn is to the left, and that would be the sunset or latter part of the year. If you looked on the old Celtic wheels, so I realized, hang on, maybe the tree language tends one side or the other, depending. So actually, what I was looking at is it's relative. The language is from the sun, whereas the sun at the time of year, and that's why the trees had more value at certain times of the year, or maybe both times of the year. And I correlated that actually that's what the tree language was all about. And of course, it didn't come from one stone that they found 100 BC. Ireland and these lands were covered in trees, and they were felled unusually. And a lot sooner, we had the British Royal Navy, but the trees were cleared long before that too. And of course, you may know or know not of the Phoenicians and so on. And there's very strong evidence to say that maybe they were from this part of the world, and this Phoenician army we know of originated this part of the world. But parking that for a side, I looked at the Ogham and I studied and I says, right, well, what do we know about the words? So I looked at this is done by Matty Baker, and it's a great table. It gives you kind of when the symbols for each of the letters. So no, the original written language is Proto-Syriac and Phoenician. You can see the origins, and if you look at the letter A, is significant. It's Capricorn. Why is Capricorn? Well, the sun rises in Capricorn in the winter solstice. But one thing that was very obvious, that's why it's a goat's head.
Yeah.
But look at it the other way around. And then you see just after the Ammon rebellion, it flips over. Remember, we're talking about the time of inversion.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
if the language you look later on around the time of Jesus, in and around that time, and just before, you see another inversion, or probably just after, where the letters are literally flipped. Okay?
Yeah, later on. Yeah,
So all of
the
these
flipped
things. So,
the other way, though. The flipped like left to right rather than, yeah.
correct. Either way, they've been inverted in some way. So, of course, this got me thinking when I studied this. So we know that Ogham is a runic language,
Right.
and the Phoenician was sort of like that. But then you look at most of the Middle Eastern, from Elamite, that's the early Elamite languages. You see that they are what you call Punic, which is different characters. Basically they're the stylists and they cut the words and their lines as well. But
Oh.
I noticed there's too much of a coincidence. So runic languages, you have the runes, of course, Scandinavian. You have Ogham, and then you go to the Punic down in the Med, and you see the Elamites and so on. And it's very difficult. There's a correlation, I think. So I said I'd look at this carefully. And there's Yiddish. You see there is kind of a loose connection, but you can still see similar common elements that didn't, to me, I wasn't looking at orthodox or conventional research on languages. I just said I'll have my own adventure. And I looked at some of them and I noticed, well, we have what we call this father in Gaelic, but it's not unique. You get it in French. In French also you have what's called accent grave. You have umlaut in German. And to me, they were clearly because the father literally means long or stretched. And as the sun rises, it's stretching out. And then you have accent grave. Grave and grave literally means to die. And they die out, the letters. So I could see correlations in these later ones. So I looked at some of these letters for you. So here's A, which we know is basically originated with Capricorn, and there's the goat. There's sunrise in the winter solstice, the sun rising up. Remember Osiris? He died. She put him back. He was scattered 13 places, 14, and she put him back together, and she couldn't find his penis, so she made him one out of gold.
That's right.
And there is the gold. He was Horus's father, or Jesus, wasn't he? So he's God, the Father, the goat, the Father.
Oh.
And there's the Son.
Oh no, I don't like where this is going.
So yeah. So you have A, but we know A is air or ether, and the one is one. But air and ether, basically, the Holy Spirit is when the sun rises, Capricorn disappears, doesn't it? But it's still there. You just can't see it.
That's right, yeah.
Which is the spirit. So and they're all one person, aren't they?
Yeah.
So God the Father, and a few minutes later, he'll be God the Holy Spirit, and there's God the Son. So there is A. The next one I looked at was B, obviously. But I realized B just didn't have a bell. And we always think of bell and it was sound. But actually, bell means light and sound. So B, and if you look at the line, remember the line in Ogham, you have a vertical line, or it could be horizontal, and this is near the end. So you look at certain letters, you have the P will be at the top, so it's from the beginning, it's going up, and this is near the end of the journey. So, like you have bounce, Big Ben. Ben means a cliff in Old Gaelic, bin, which is where echo, you get an echo, bin, and the ben, and so on. And there you have a bell tower. So we're all thinking about the sound, but actually the tower, we know the towers isn't about the sound, it's about the light. So that was B. So it's the light from the receiving of the light from the solar entity, be it the sun or the star or the moon or whatever. Okay, so there's B.
Wow.
Now, this is probably the most significant letter, the one of all, one of the most significant letter, and it is E. So we have emergence, emit energy, elevate, and L. So you look at the sun, and what basically E is the emergence. It's the rising. It's the light as it breaks, the emittance as it breaks the horizon. And where is the horizon? Well, the right horizon,
Oh, gosh, it's
the shadow,
gone really choppy now.
or
You
it
just
could be
have to
that.
repeat that last bit, Alan. You went really choppy then when you swapped slides from E to L.
Okay, so so E was the emergence.
Yeah.
Okay, on the horizon. Can you see is it stabilized now?
Yeah.
So now you have L. So there's the land. You see, and where do you get a shadow? You can only get a shadow on the land, can't you?
Yeah.
And that is the standing stone or a penis, or that's what it is, a phallic symbol. It's standing on. It's on the land. So God was simply where you have emergence meets the land, and where is that? That's the horizon. This is the Elamite. These are the L. The worshippers of this are the Lites. They want the L on the horizon. All the lights on the horizon is L, and the Elohim were all the gods.
Right. Yeah. And the angels as well. Michael, Gabriel, Raphael. Gosh. Mic drop. He's gone again.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you're back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so did you get that? So basically, Elohim is the gods. El, we all know El as being the god, the original god,
Yep.
is the light on the horizon. It's the E, the emergence, on the L, the land.
Wow.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's L. So I will go on rather than so. There is table. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at. So I've showed you all the letters bar one, which was T. So I need to show you T. Okay.
I'm guessing it's
So
like
T.
Tau. Oh, here we are.
Well, it is not bad, not bad. So look at T. Just look at the how it you have a cross. You remember Newgrange. You had between the three dots either side. You had the squeezed bubble,
Yeah.
an up bit and a down bit.
Yeah.
Then you have this, you do cross, same again. Then you have this and this. So what is that? That's the horizon. And this is like the beam continuing on, right? So if you go and bang on, you have tau as it comes through and bounces off. This is the old Gaelic T. So tau means yes. Che, Te is hot. Remember, E is the emergence.
Yeah.
So what T means is like the impact. It's the recipient, the receiving end of the emergence, the light from the emergence. Okay.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So tide we can go through. So bonfire, for example, is tina. House is chi, but it's like where the impact from an eye. Well, I'm not going to try. Basically, it's where you get an impact or an incident, an effect. Okay, so that's what T temperature. Che is hot. It's like the receiving end of the heat, the impact zone. Okay, so I'll go back to the slide I was on before. Was table. So let's have a good look at this. So you have T, which is kind of the impact. Okay. A, we said was the air, the ether. Okay, so B is the wave. That's what B means. It's a light or sound wave. So light, probably in this case. On land, L, of E, the emergence. Does that make sense? So basically, the English language, which to me I've looked at, is a hybrid of all these Punic and Runic. So it's connected 100% to the Proto language. So what you're seeing, table, and we've learned to why is this called a table? Because this is where you do work. That's why it's a multi-purpose tabletop. Underneath, you had your fruit and your seed, didn't you?
Right.
Is this coming through?
Yeah.
The high table. So you have the scraps under the table. You have your food for next year and your seeds for next year. Two, it's not just one thing. You need both. If you don't have these, that's what the dolmens were. The womb, the tomb. It was to protect your seed. So there was no next year if you didn't sort this out. So, but on top, you have a flat slab. And I done a little 3D on it. So what they did was they would have placed does that come true? Yeah. So you would have placed your cross down on the table. Remember? Table, T, where the incident through the air of the wave, which on land of E. There's E in the distance, do you see? So E through the air sends on land to here, and you receive the impact. So basically, it was a place to receive the light that they could measure. See?
Wow.
So it's a table. The table had a purpose. It's and here's another one to look at. See, you have the altar, don't you? Well, ironically, if you look at out here, you have altar at that level, a low-level god is one of the stars, just on the level of your table. Everything below the table is the zodiac.
Wow.
So, a question: what's the most famous table you know of?
The round table.
Round table, yeah. It's a good
The
shout, King Arthur.
Yeah. Good.
Yes.
So, did it ever exist? Well, it did.
That's Stonehenge.
Exactly, because you have the flat stone on top in a temple.
Yeah. Got you.
It's round. It's a round table.
Yes. We're just
And
missing
what they did,
a big oak tabletop for the giants on top of there to sit round.
well, actually, you don't, because the round stones are the flat table. It's a round table. It's just not the table we thought of.
Oh, got you. Yeah. Wow.
So the multi-purpose table, is that like a miniature version
Exactly.
of the
Yes.
of Newgrange, basically? That's what you're saying. So like, in Newgrange,
Yeah.
they would have put the seeds right in the center where the crucifix or the cruciform bit was, and then
Yes.
so like, and these little tables perhaps are commonplace, which were a little bit more, common, I guess.
Yes, so they're your local community or local farm.
Right.
You would have your table. If you didn't have your table, your tomb, your womb. So it was your literally Mother Earth, keeping your seeds dry, dark, and the same temperature which stone provided. The space, the cube, isn't about the edges. It's actually the dark square space that provides. That's what the cube is, the Kaaba. When you look at some of the movies, Horizon, or many of them, you have the black cube or the black sphere, but you can never touch the surface because it's not the surface. Space, it is literally space. So it's not a thing. It's ethereal.
It's
So
abstract.
that's what the cube represents.
Right.
Yes, it's literally abstract. So the
Cool.
round table is Stonehenge. It has to be, really, or maybe it is. It would be. I'll explain more because it doesn't end there yet, does it? That photo I took. This is not one of the worst photos, but see the security here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
What a shame.
I couldn't get up there. I just happened to pick the right spot to stand, so I got the sun coming through.
Right.
But the security wouldn't let us go there. But if you went there that night on winter solstice sunset, no problem.
Oh.
Interesting that you couldn't go there for the morning.
Oh, it's maybe in use.
Yes, there's all sorts of sacrificing going on.
Who knows? Who knows? Well, I'd say actually that would be the creative side. So I'd be probably more saucy, I'd say, than
All right.
fatal.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, let's go next year.
Yeah.
Creative side. I don't know. I haven't a clue. So, what do you know also of that Overton window?
Oh,
You know the Overton window, don't you? The opportunity when the window lines up with your idea or the agenda, let's say, it has a moment, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, the Hegelian dialectic has the problem reaction solution. You need that moment for everything to line up, isn't it?
Mhm.
We know certain people are involved in that.
Oh dear.
Oh,
So, what
dear.
are the knights of the round table? Well, so you look up and you see all the high gods, the pyramid of power, looking straight up. The one we're missing up there, which is in power now, is obviously Draco. Sits pretty
Draco.
much up there. The Ursa Major and your Polaris, of course. But have a good look. Look all around here, and you see the round table, don't you?
Yeah.
Or we know it's been remodeled several times, maybe 3 or 4 times, Stonehenge, probably because they can't work out exactly
Where
the
it should
original
be.
layout
Yeah,
and
to
they
get
have
the.
ideas. But we probably have a better idea what it's about now than they do. But to look at it, so you have the round table, but have a look. What do you see? What do we look at? You see the Saracen stones on the table, and everyone thinks it's the Saracen stone is the most important thing, but it's not. It's looking through the stones is what's important. There's your Overton window.
Right.
These are, look at each one of them is a different knight, isn't it? It's a different knight at the table.
Yeah.
So, right.
So these are the knights of the round table. They're K knights, silent knight, a silent K knight. That's what they are. And each one looks at a different constellation, a different time of year.
Right. Got you. Depending. Right. Okay.
And so when I've gone, obviously I've done all the letters, and there, believe it or not, there is more poignant letters than that, which I'm trying to put together. So I look forward to sharing that with you.
Yeah. Still in the process of decoding. Yes. It's very interesting.
No, I've pretty much finished now.
Have you?
Oh.
So I'm putting it together, yes, and
Excellent.
it will really open your eyes.
Yeah.
to
Yeah, I'd be interested to like put Google Earth down in middle of Stonehenge and see what constellations come up through these porticos.
Yeah,
man.
they're at different. I
So
suppose.
you know, celestially significant days of the year.
How long have you been looking into all of this then, Alan?
So the first video you've seen, I started. I guess that accidental finding was just in January that year, really, or February maybe, January. January, I think, early January. I went home with Ghost. My third eye podcast. That was when that was in, and I did an interview with Michael Tazarian and David Whitehead. Just before that, that was in 21, the end of 21.
All right.
And yes, and I did another interview at that time with Gran Torino, which is good fun, and Ghost. They were both good fun interviews. and then Sasha Stone after that, and then I went silent. So I obviously the world took over and I was doing my own thing, but I kind of parked it for a few months, and then the letters, I guess I said I needed to, just to do a short little version because it was too long. Obviously, I never got that finished, but as I was doing it and the language thing kicked over, so that's like really the mid part of last year, so last summer to now.
Cool.
Okay.
So a year, not quite a year and a half, but it's there's a lot of. So I went through all the letters, and really I have come a long way to really, it's unlocked a lot of things. So what I found, there's a few alterations to history, I think, that are quite profound, which I'll talk about. Obviously, I touched on it at Tara. The other thing was some of the letters I struggled with. I struggled with W. I struggled with U, N, and M, and I just couldn't understand where K came from, and then Y. So when I will not say that, we'd say YK, okay?
Not KY.
So I realized, well, I will say this, that the two of those, Y and K, are phenomenally significant.
You're such a tease.
And V, yes. The T,
So,
we know.
you don't call it KY jelly for nothing, man.
Second attempt.
No. So one thing I would say is, okay, so we know goat, okay? So we know goat is where the word God originated, or its origin, because it's Capricorn. It's called the Father, the Holy Spirit. So we got that. So that's G, okay? But originally, and I don't know if even when it was it with the Ammon Rebellion? Maybe. But I think there might have been some kind of a change before that as well. But so G, we know how G sounds. Remember that letter didn't came later on with the Capricorn, the goat. But the Gaelic word for God is D-E, Je, or G. Or D-I-A is blessing, is bless you, or God bless you, Gia, G. So G is the letter capital G we know. Gael, if you look at Gaelic, it originally means to gyrate, which is what the planets and the stars do.
Cool, yeah.
But D is we know it as a semicircle on a horizon line. But D literally means all lights, and not just the sun. So when it was polytheism, the capital D, particularly small d as well, would have meant God, but it was G, said the same, pronounced the same, but it referred to all lights, all the L along the horizon. So that the original God would have been all the lights of the sky, right, not just the sun. Right. So there was a change before that. That was the one change that came along. So there's quite a few things, and then you understand the darker side. So I've made a few discoveries. Indeed, one of the Harry on our history group, he made quite a connection with the recent events in Dublin. So, what we have to realize is that, as I say, there was a couple other letters that got me, but now I know I'm in a very strong place to know how they operate, and they operate in a mechanical way, and a key way. So when I share, and hopefully I'll share it with you soon, I'll go through the rest of it. When I guess I want to release it all together because it's it makes more sense when it's together. To put it that way.
Well, Alan, it's been pretty fascinating. I've enjoyed it very much. Yeah. So
Very interesting.
Yeah, people in the chat are asking for you to come back.
Yes.
So you're gonna have to come back when
Okay,
continue at some point.
I will do.
Yeah.
Yes, no problem. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
There's
been great.
no, I look forward to it. There's so much, as I say, I have ridiculous amount of slides, and it's so hard, But if I leave this slide out, and it loses translation and becomes just a random slide. But I've tried to put a bit of chronology, or at least link everything, because that's the hardest part, is just to put it together. And I guess that's what I've been doing in the wee hours. Usually when I'm driving, it hits me how things connect. But I do look forward to sharing that with you.
Cool. Well, I think we should let you go. Time's marching on. And
Yes.
let's.
The sun is getting low.
The sun's getting low. Yeah,
Yeah.
the scarlet.
It's so low, it's underneath us.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thanks again. Thanks, Alan. Thanks for coming in and sharing your stuff with us. It's been very interesting. And look forward to doing it again before too long.
Yeah, same as that. Same.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
No problem.
It's a pleasure, and please come back and have a good what's left of your Sunday. All right, Alan?
Yeah, will do. Take care.
All right, I'll be in touch. All right. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye-bye.